Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly Kings Roundtable. We've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, things are not going very well for the Kings right now. 2 games under 500. And guys, I'm going to start with this word inconsistency. We have seen it really from the beginning of the season back in October. And here we are getting ready to turn the calendar from March to April. And it's still the same issue. It's an inconsistent team. Mike Brown used to talk about it after the games. Doug Christie has been talking about it after the games. This team, to me, when you look at their roster guys, they're underachieving. I look at this talent and I'm like, wow, there are a lot of good players on this team. But it doesn't fit, Jerry. It just doesn't fit.
No, that's the biggest problem. I mean, I would say that I think that one of the things they are very consistent in being inconsistent. You know,
Yes.
that's the one consistency. But yeah, the talent is the sum is better than the total the whole parts. It doesn't fit,
Yep.
and that's been the problem, I think. And uh, it just seems to me like against good teams, like we've seen against Boston and Oklahoma City, that play a little better defense, is that the Kings don't really get the same quality of shot that the opposition does. We have a tendency as fans to say, "Well, boy, they're getting the shots they want." No, they're not. They're getting the shots that the defense wants a good part of the time, and not that they can't make them, but it's pretty clear the quality of shot that Oklahoma City got compared to the Kings was a very different type of shot.
Jerry, it seems like this team is very inconsistent also in taking advantage of other teams' mistakes.
Yeah, that this team, this team really needs to be good. It's just got to take care of the ball, and it needs to force turnovers, force mistakes. Now, I thought they did a good job of that against Oklahoma City in the first quarter, but you looked around and they were still behind.
21 points.
Yeah, after forcing was 7 turnovers, which is which you kind of knew then. It's like, well, these guys aren't likely to turn it over 7 times a quarter, and you're still behind. And there's a fine line with
Yep.
this team. I mean, and there's certainly winnable games out there for this team, but right now they're in a tough spot to where they've got to go 6-4 at worst in order to probably just hold on to 9.
Yeah, they're not going to go 6-4. They have 10 games left with this schedule, unless some of their opponents rest their guys. I don't see any way in the world they're going to go 6-4. I am very leery about this team even winning 40 games. I went back earlier today and watched some parts of the games on this homestand when things went bad. And to me, it all starts with dribble penetration by the opposition. The Kings' inability to keep the ball in front of them on what looked like just basic basketball plays breaks down this entire defense. Then you have to have a man go pick up the guy with the ball who just beat his man off the dribble. And all the team needs to do, I'm talking about the opposition, they make one pass and then they pass one extra pass to a wide open guy. And that has been such a repetitive pattern this year. The inability of the Kings to keep the man in front of them is just mystifying to me, because it's not just one guy. It's like a team concept. They just can't keep the man in front of them, and it just breaks down the entire defense, and it happens over and over and over again. It's awful.
Yeah, that leads to the consistent problem with defending 3-point shooters. I thought Greg Anthony made a great point last night. I mean, pointed that out. The dribble penetration leads to the kick out for the corner threes or the easy threes. Well,
Yep.
to your point, I mean, yeah, you're not staying in front of guys. Defenders come to help. That leaves somebody open, and even if they're not open when they catch the ball, the next pass will get a guy open. So it's all because of perimeter defense for the most part. There's other issues, but that is where it starts, and it also produces the easy quality shots. That's why bad 3-point shooting teams shoot well when they play the Kings, because they're getting easier shots than they normally do.
Yeah,
It is the NBA, right, guys? I mean, we are talking about the best players in the world, right, Ryan? If you leave NBA players open, chances are they're going to make their shots.
Yep, most time they will. And in the early season, when we saw the Kings having some success at times on defense, it's because, in part, they were getting to the free throw line. The last two games, they've gotten there 11 and I believe 12 times, respectively. So the Kings are constantly in transition with the turnovers, made or missed shots. They're not getting that chance to set their defenses. And when they do set their defense, sometimes they have a little bit better success, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I think every team, if you can play five on five with the set defense, as you talked about, but that's the kind of the issue too, is that if you're not scoring the ball consistently, they're out in the open court, and then you're not getting to set your defense. And every team in the league, and that includes the Kings, every team in the league is better in the open court than they are against set defenses.
Yep.
Final game of the homestand coming up tomorrow against Portland, and I think this is a toss-up game. The last time these teams met, Portland beat Sacramento up in the Pacific Northwest, although it was, I believe, the second of a back-to-back for the Kings and a very difficult part of their schedule. And then you hit the road for 6. This is a very challenging time to be going on the road for 6 games towards the end of the season. Right now, the Kings are 35-37. So in order to go just 500, Jerry, they would have to go 6-4. And quite frankly, I don't see how they can go 6-4. I'm looking at games that I don't expect Sacramento to win. I don't expect them to win at Orlando. I don't expect them to win at Indiana. I don't expect them to win at Cleveland or Detroit. Certainly they can win any of those games, but I'm not expecting them to. And quite frankly, when they come home, I'm not sure which of those 3 teams they're going to beat, assuming that the opposition plays their regulars. I don't see 6 wins here. And I know one thing, if you don't beat Portland tomorrow, you're sure as heck not winning 6 games. That's for darn sure. If you lose tomorrow, guys, and you hit the road with 5 straight home losses after winning the first 2, I don't have a good feeling at all about this road trip. I really don't. We talk about matchups, right? Orlando is a very difficult matchup for Sacramento. And other than Washington and Charlotte on this upcoming 6-game road trip, who do you look at and say, oh, yeah, the Kings are definitely going to win that game? I mean, I don't see it. I just don't. Right now, I don't think the team's playing well enough.
No, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, they should beat Portland. They must beat Portland. And then Charlotte and Washington, that gives them 3. Now, where else can they get the other 3? Well, it almost does depend on teams that are set, not playing their main guys. The Denver comes in and they're set in their placement late.
Yep.
So the Clippers. I mean, if teams really can't be moved out of their playoff spot or play-in spot, you may catch them right. But sadly, that's kind of what I think it depends on, and that's not necessarily beating teams. That's just catching them at the right time.
Yeah, and understand one thing. If Michael Malone sees that the Kings can be knocked out of the play-in in front of Vivek Ranadive at home, Michael Malone's not resting his guys for that game.
No, I think Michael Malone, he may rest them the game before, the game after, but he's not.
Right. That's right.
That's just a prediction. I'm just predicting.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that in there, Jerry. I just want to let you know I don't expect Michael Malone to rest his guys against the Kings. I just don't.
Well, and of course his top assistant David Adelman, probably would encourage, try to get the win against the Kings for other reasons.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the Kings need to even the season series with Portland. 'Cause right now they're down 2-1. So that's why tomorrow's important as well. And guys, I did this all night study. I put all the numbers into my analytics calculator, and this is what it comes down to. It's going to blow your mind. When the Kings have beat Portland, they've held them to 22% from beyond the 3-point line. So that's what it comes down to, pushing them off the line and getting them going towards the mid-range.
Well, I mean, I do think with the current roster, I mean, with Keegan and Keon Ellis and Laravia and then Carter, you do have guys who can guard guys. Now, they may not be on the floor. I can't guarantee you that. But you're right. I mean, that's been the thing all year. If you look,
right,
probably 80% of the games they've been beat because of not being able to defend the 3 and then not being able to shoot the 3 well enough.
And that's not going to change all of a sudden with 10 games left to go in the season. It's not like there's a magic wand that's going to come out of the skies and, descend itself upon the Golden One Center and change the Kings' fortunes. That just it is who they are, and it's part of the reason why they're 35 and 37. Not the entire reason, but it is part of the reason. So we have been talking about this, Jerry, because of what the fans want. I'm seeing a lot of Sacramento fans on my social media timelines and other areas on the internet almost wishing that the Kings don't make the play-in so that they can retain their draft pick and move forward that way. I know you're not a fan of losing, and you like to play to win, and I get that. But I'm just surprised at how many Kings fans are waving the white flag right now. And I understand the frustration because they know that even if you should make the play-in and win 2 games, Oklahoma City is going to steamroll you. And, what good does that do? So, Ryan, I'm going to start with you, even though I was asking Jerry because Jerry wasn't with us for the post-game discussions. That's what I'm seeing a lot of, Rhino, right now.
I'm seeing a lot of it too. I think for the morale of the city, making the playoffs or winning 2 games in the play-in would be important. But for the future of the franchise, retaining the pick is the way that I lean, Jer.
Well, I'm like Grant said, I'm always opposed to any kind of tanking, but I will say, I mean, it is an interesting concept. I know the King's Herald, where I do a podcast, a high percentage of these are loyal Kings fans, and many season ticket holders, and more it's coming up. We'd be better off keeping our pick, getting the pick as opposed to losing it, which of course, if you're getting the play and you'd lose it. And I think there's some merit to that. You don't know that the whoever you pick shall make you any better. That's also true. But I think the frustration with the team as it is, to your point, Brian, it's like, well, at best, we get to play a first round. If things would go swimmingly well,
right,
we'd get to play a first round series with Oklahoma City, and you're not going to beat them in 7 games. You're just not. So
no,
yeah,
no.
It's it's definitely worth thinking about. I like to say it wouldn't be the worst thing to happen if you got your pick, but it also mean that the season has been a terrible disappointment as well.
Well, to me, the season has already been a terrible disappointment unless you make the play-in and win 2 games. This is and I can guarantee you the owner of the Kings is going to look at it that way. Remember, this is a team that won 46 games last year, which if I had told you before the season began this year that the Kings would win 46, you probably would say, yeah, okay, I'll take that. You always want to improve, but realistically, you would say, okay, I'll take 46 wins in a tough conference. But the Kings won 46 last year and did not make the playoffs. All right, they lost in the play-in in New Orleans. And this year, I'm not sure they're going to win 40 games. I don't see how anyone can look at this season and call it anything other than a failure. This has been a failure of a season, starting back really in the summer when you gave Mike Brown a contract extension, which you didn't have to. And he was gone before we even reached the halfway point. You traded a franchise player in De'Aaron Fox, and I understand that their hands were tied there. But the point is, you still had to trade a very popular player, a player that really you were building your franchise around. You made a lot of trades that, quite frankly, you can ask yourself how they worked, and you're going to get more no's than yeses. The Zach LaVine deal right now looks horrible, although I think I'm in the camp of you, Jerry, even though I don't know how you're going to answer this question. I've watched Zach LaVine play his entire career. This is not the same Zach LaVine that I'm accustomed to watching. So I just got to believe common sense will tell me that I'm going to start seeing a better Zach LaVine, if not in the next 10 games, then next year. So I'm not ready to bury the hatchet on him. But this thing right now is a failure. I'm sorry. I don't see how I can look at it any other way.
No, I don't either. I would agree with you. And I think obviously there have been mistakes. I always said the Fox thing. In my mind, it's you didn't have to trade him just because at the midpoint, if you didn't get the deal you wanted, he has every obligation to play well if, in fact, he wants a better contract and to be traded and that sort of thing. So, I thought they probably rushed into something they didn't have to. That's just my opinion. But I also think with Zach, and I'm on kind of on your side there, is Zach LaVine's a lot better than he's playing. And my thoughts right now is Zach and Domas are not, neither one really fitting into what they should be able to do, and I think that you're not getting the proper usage or mileage out of two very talented guys for maybe many different reasons. But the point being is you better get it because they're here, they're under contract, they're highly paid, and they're highly talented. They're just not playing like it.
Jerry, isn't that the same conversation and problem the Kings had with Fox and Domas?
Well, a little bit. I mean, the way they got around that a lot better was Fox certainly could use Domas's screens extremely well. He wasn't necessarily a good playmaker, on a screen and roll at all. He was a scorer off the screen roll, but it was effective as opposed to Monk and Sabonis, who are extremely effective on the pick and roll. But I didn't see that as they were good together when they won 48.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
They
were
very
good.
Yeah. So
right.
I don't, I think there were a lot of issues, once the trade thing came up and the new agent and all of that, that certainly, I think, impacted, and I did find it strange that supposedly one of the reasons that he decided he needed traded, and I'm pretty sure it made up, but that he didn't want to play for a new coach after Mike Brown got fired. It's like, well, if you're going to San Antonio, you're going to play for a new coach, and you're probably going to play for another new coach next year. The guy that was in not probably going. I mean, so it's one of those things that it throws out there, and I was amazed that the media, a lot of guys never followed up on that. It's like, well, if you don't want to play for a different coach, why are you going to a different team?
Yep, and you make a good point. He might have two coaches before he even completes his first year there. Hey, don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fixed fee. They're available around the clock 24/7. SackServicePlumbing.com or NewWorksPlumbing.com, NEWWRXPlumbing.com. Or call the number on your screen. They're available 24/7 for your plumbing needs and repairs. Again, that's New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. I don't know if we've got a fix for the Kings right now with 10 games left. I just I have no confidence that the Kings are going to come out and beat Portland tomorrow. Portland's been a very pesky team. As you said, Rhino, they've already beat Sacramento twice this year. I don't know why I should believe that the Kings are going to just come out and play well tomorrow. I think they'll play well in stretches because I've seen them play well in stretches in every single game on this homestand. I just haven't seen them, other than the Cleveland game. I really haven't seen them. Although I will say, I watched the Milwaukee game a lot again. I thought the Kings played very well. I thought their defense broke down, obviously, in the fourth quarter, and I was looking at it. It was dribble penetration. It was creating open threes. But the Kings played pretty well against, Milwaukee. They played very well against Chicago in spurts, and they played very well again against Cleveland, I think, for 4 quarters. But, boy, the last few games, I didn't expect them to beat Boston guys. I didn't expect them to beat Oklahoma City. But there were just areas of the game where I was questioning, are you listening to your coach? Are you trying? Basketball 101, low basketball IQ. And Ryan, here's something else I noticed when going back and watching some of these games. Time and score. Too often, when the Kings really need a quality possession, they rush their shot or they go into a one-on-one mode. Instead of passing the ball, which has worked so beautifully for them, they revert back to what I call bad habits too often.
Yeah, you're right, Grant. And I would even say to that point, Jerry, the Kings are taking up too much of the shot clock too often in normal times of the game. Shots where they should be going up 8-10 seconds. They're taking it down to 3, 4, 2. We've seen Zach LaVine not even know that the shot clock was at 3.
No, that's a great point. I mean, and especially when you get into that situation where we see a lot, especially late in games, where they kind of clear aside and DeRozan really has the ball, and he's going to get a shot, and he's extremely good at it. But the problem is if he can't get the good shot, nothing else is happening. There is no plan B, so to speak. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get a shot within 10 seconds. And if it doesn't, the clock is going to be a problem because that becomes a defender. And, I always say when you clear out one side for one guy and the other guys are basically just giving him space. That worked well where Michael Jordan, by the way. But it's not effective for very many people. And DeRozan's extremely good at it, but it's still when you have no movement away, you're just screwed. He's either got to make the shot or the possession is useless.
And guys, the other aspect of the Kings' inconsistency is something that we've been talking about for more than just this season. The lack of what you need in the NBA is a true point guard. And it's mystifying to me how Monty McNair has constructed this team without focusing on really the most important position on the floor. And Ryan, we talk about this all the time. That has to be a priority this offseason. It just has to be.
I think it's got to be priority number one, Grant. Just look at the difference the Kings would be, and I'm going to throw some names out there. If you had like an Alex Caruso type, TJ McConnell type, those guys, a Peyton Pritchard, who we just saw, I know they don't grow on trees, but somebody that can put pressure on the defense, play off of Domas, open up those cracks, and get to the paint effectively, it changes everything. It opens up and gets better shots for Levine, better shots for Murray, Ellis, Jerry.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a real need. And like I say, it's hard to find guys. And certainly a college kid, it may not work for a while. That's the other part. You may get the right guy, but it took John Stockton 3 years to be effective before he was effective. So, in my mind, they almost have to look trade-wise in order to get the help they need there. And an actual pass first playmaker.
Yeah.
That was the thing that struck me with the trade. Tyus Jones goes to Chicago. Well, he's a nice little player. I mean, it's like, geez, that'd been a nice throw in Kings wise, wouldn't it?
Sure would. It would have been perfect. Jerry, here's a question for you. What do you make of the Kings' inability to capitalize on fast breaks when they have numbers? Seems like they oftentimes end up with a bad 3-point shot, even on 3-on-1 breaks.
Yeah, that's a great question because it does seem to happen. I mean, it seems to me like you really got to force the defense to take the ball. And too often they're giving it up too soon, or when the defense does take the ball, then they're still trying to force the issue with the ball. I mean, the idea is to make the defense commit first and then you react. And really, it seems like the team on a consistent basis is reacting before the defense does. I mean, we've seen guys on 2-on-1s and stuff really just drive right into the defense, hoping for a foul or whatever, or before anybody even picks the ball up, throwing it ahead to the corner or something, which then they flare out and can cover it. So it's the game really isn't that complicated. It is about angles and the little. Pete Carell always used to talk about all this. It's always about the little things that make the difference. When you pass, what angle you pass at, how you pressure the ball, things of that nature. And I don't think we're very good at the little things.
Jerry, Grant brought up an excellent point a couple of shows ago about the quality of passing and that contributing to some of the shooting problems for the Kings. What do you see with the passes? Because a lot of times guys are reaching over, reaching down, reaching back instead of getting it right there in that pocket.
Well, I do think, it's a real skill. And I mean, not everybody's a good passer. And I think that's, you probably look at this team and that would be true. I don't think that, other than maybe Domas, and actually I do think DeRozan's a good passer. He may not like to all the time, but he has a pretty good feel of the game. Conversely, Levine, I don't think that's his strong point at all. He gets in trouble trying to make plays sometime, but in general, I think that's a weakness. Where you look at Keegan, that's not really a strength of Keegan's. It's not really a strength of Laravia, who I like for a lot of things. Lyles, I mean, you just don't. That's a weakness, and it's compounded because you don't have that playmaker.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't, if you had Trey Young or something, you wouldn't notice it much.
Yep. Hey, tonight, the Kings will be keeping an eye on the scoreboard as the Phoenix Suns take on the Boston Celtics. No Jason Tatum there. Hey, Sunrise Landing in Calusa, the newest residential community. Go to calusasunrise.com. Get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing with their beautiful models to choose from, different lot sizes, no Mellorews, no homeowners, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. Easy access, I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. Get all the information at calusasunrise.com and check out Sunrise Landing. Once again, that is calusasunrise.com and Sunrise Landing. And don't forget, tomorrow, a full day with content. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already done so to the channel. If you would not mind, give us a thumbs up. We would appreciate that as the Kings wrap up this homestand. We said at the beginning, a lot of people thought they would go 3-4. Would you take 3-4 on this brutal homestand? I was one of them and said I would. That's still possible. I mean, if you win tomorrow, you're 3-4, and 3-4 at home is nothing to get excited about. When you look at the quality of opponents, though, Cleveland, Boston, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, right? I mean, you would have probably said, yeah, give me 3-4. Well, it's still there. You would head out on the road a game under 500, and at least you're breathing. I still think that the teams below Sacramento, both Dallas and Phoenix, aren't going to win more than a few more games. So, I mean, the Kings would I think the Kings are going to have to probably go 3-7 or 2-8 not to be in the play. And I really believe that.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to think that either one of those two teams are, although, Phoenix is starting to play a lot better and Dallas getting Davis back, I guess, periodically. They'll get better a
Periodically.
Little better. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that all works, but I think you're right. I mean, I don't think you have to fall out of the play, and probably 3 wins get you there. That's why Portland is so important, because Washington and Charlotte, just no excuses not to win those games.
None whatsoever. I would have taken 3-4 too, but looking at how this homestand played out, now 3-4 makes me feel bad, because I feel like there should already be 3 wins on here, almost 4 wins. Jerry and I have talked about that. And
no, you're right.
It's kind of the story of the season, just lost opportunities.
Yep.
I think the one surprise to me was Chicago, and the reason I say it is because coming in, well, you look at Chicago's record, but the truth is they've been playing since the trade. They have gotten a lot better.
Yes, they have.
And they've been on the road and slapping a lot of people, even easier than they did the Kings. And like I say, it's one of those trades. I think when it all happened, everybody assumed, well, maybe San Antonio won it. Chicago, what did they get? Well, what they got was a lot of cap relief. They got Tyus Jones, who's really helped them, and more importantly, let Kobe White be the star.
He is the star.
And the reality is their road trip's been a lot better than Cleveland's road trip, and Cleveland obviously is the best team in the conference record-wise by a lot, and the Bulls, their West Coast swing has been much better than Cleveland. And Cleveland, that's what happened to the Cavaliers last year. They came out west and got spanked. They come out west this year and get spanked. I think they get home and they are going to regroup. And I think the Kings better be real careful when they go into Cleveland in a couple of days next week, because they might get spanked. I expect the Cavaliers to regroup after they get home and get their act together.
Yeah, that they'll remember that game.
Yes,
for sure. The Cavs are a lot better team, and credit to Kings for getting the win. They played a terrific game, but certainly Darius Garland was missed, but then so was Monk, and so. But yeah, that'll be one that I'm pretty sure that the coach will mark on the calendar and say we might rest guys before and after, but probably not on that one.
Well, Grant, when you lose 14 games all season and one of them's to the Kings, you're probably going to remember that.
Yeah, we saw that with the Celtics the other night. Hey, folks, I want to tell you about Connor at Element Mortgage, and he is a guy that you can trust. He is somebody that has a lot of experience when it comes to real estate. And here's something else. If you're a real estate agent, if you need a lender who works as hard for your clients as you do. Connor's your guy. He gets deals done, keeps you informed at every step in the loan process, and makes the process easy for your buyers. Be sure and reach out to him today. See the difference a great lender can make. You got the QR code right there, or you can give him a call. You see the number. It might be easier for you to jot it down, 916-505-1006. He's got a great team behind him, buying a home, selling a home, whatever the case may be. Get in touch with Connor at Element Mortgage. Again, 916-505-1006. Kings and Blazers tomorrow. We'll send the Kings off on their road trip, and we'll see if that beam still works or not. It's been a while.
It may be rusted over. You're going to have to scrape the rust off, man. Get a little gob of beam up in the air.
Yeah, Jerry, I wanted to ask you something we touched on briefly yesterday, and I wanted to get into it a little bit more. You moved here from Kansas City with the Kings in 85. I moved here in 87. And I was trying to reflect back on all of those years because the Kings have been an organization and a franchise of constant change. Coaches in and out of the door, front office, all of that. I was trying to remember the last time I can remember a top assistant coach, not the lead assistant, because I think Jay Triano fits that, but Luke Locks and now Wes Wilcox, the assistant general manager to Monte McNair, both leaving in the middle of the season. That is very rare, is it not?
I can't recall it ever happening, to be honest with you, especially to college jobs. I think in general, that's just not the way it goes. I mean, guys, and especially, here again, I know things have changed. Certainly in the college game, it's become more professional. And so, for an assistant like Luke Lotz, so, basically it's a chance to be a head coach at his alma mater. And so I get that. And because there's no guarantee he'd ever get a head job in the NBA, but to do it when he did it, that is something. And then, of course, Wes Wilcox, as assistant GM, he's been a GM with the Hawks as a head guy. There was a reason to say that he could get back a top job, but probably my guess is the way things are going, he's probably concerned about just what the future might be. And secondarily, there's no openings for a top job. So there's only 30 jobs and they're all full right now. So
yeah, if I'm Wes Wilcox, I got to be looking at the landscape of the Kings right now and saying, I might be out of a job this summer and take the opportunity. And so I understand that. I actually understand both.
mm-hmm.
There's no way that this coaching staff, as it is put together right now, is going to be retained next year. You might have some of them retained. You might have Doug. I don't know. But, there's going to be a big change on the staff. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I personally think that Monte McNair is on very thin ice. I just do. I think you're going to have a lot of changes to the organization this summer. That's my forecast.
Well, I do think that, I don't think that's lost on those guys. I think you hit it. If you're any of those guys, if you're not sure about your future and you got an opportunity going forward with, 3 or 4 year contract, maybe as good a money or better, certainly better probably in case of a college coaching job. So yeah, you understand it. It's just weird that it really was. It is still weird because I don't recall it ever happening. So that makes it weird.
Yeah.
Do you see the De'Aaron Fox trade, especially with Zach LaVine involved in it, as Monte McNair's Hail Mary, Jerry?
Well, it kind of seems that way. The reason I would say that is Zach LaVine's been basically up for trade for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And so, partly was injuries. Certainly he came back this year and was playing great before the trade. He was healthy, but also the contracts, so they've been trying to move off the contract for several years. So it did strike me that, well, this is a guy, probably could have gotten, another way if he was your goal. Isn't
it interesting? I was talking about this with Ryan. The reason why Zach LaVine has such a big contract is because of the Kings and their offer sheet that the Bulls matched a couple of years ago in about 10 minutes. So, it's interesting that he ends up on a team that the Kings wanted years ago. And the reason why Zach LaVine is filthy rich is because of the Kings.
Yeah, he certainly would have gotten money somewhere. I mean, he's been too good a player. But I'm just talking about the reality of what we know is that, and that wasn't a secret, that they were trying to move him. They wanted to get out from under the contract, and so they did. And so they were, and I think part of the reason they were is just what we talked about earlier. I think they were confident that Kobe White could more than fill the bill, and he has.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a guy drafted from North Carolina, 7th pick, and he was kind of languishing as a reserve. And then when Zach got hurt, they found out, well, shoot, this guy's good.
Well, the reality is the Bulls have gotten a lot better at the trade deadline, and the Kings have not. That's the reality of the situation.
That is. That's it exactly. And by the way, the Spurs didn't get better either.
No, but the Spurs at least have a huge asterisk next to them because shortly after they acquired De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama was out for the year. So that's a big reason why.
Oh, of course, and we won't know, and plus we don't know about Coach Popovich or anything else. I mean, there's more questions there than answers, but clearly a lot of potential.
And how about Damian Lillard going down with a very similar diagnosis, a deep vein thrombosis?
Yes. Not good.
They're a little more optimistic that maybe, some of the medications I was reading today that seem to be working pretty well, that it's possible he could come back this season. So
that would be great.
So, I think each case is different. I don't, but obviously the Milwaukee Bucks have no chance of really competing for a championship without Lillard.
No, they don't. And quite frankly, I'm not so sure that even with Lillard, they're anything better currently than the third best team in that conference behind Cleveland and Boston. Now, you made a good point the other day, Jerry. I mean, Cleveland's got a very good record, but they're going to be judged by what they do starting here in the second season. And they're expected to represent the East in the finals. And I'll tell you, going through Boston with their lineup and the way they play and their experience is not going to be any picnic.
No, it isn't. And I it's like too with Indiana's playing awfully well right now.
Boy, are they ever.
I mean, I think they're a little bit of the sleeper in the East, and then Milwaukee, if Lillard comes back, they'll get Bobby Portis back too. And we have tend to forget that guy's really good. And,
yes, he is.
You love you some Bobby Portis, Jerry.
I love me some Bobby Portis. That's the ultimate 4-5 player that gets you doubles every night and knocks people down a little bit and ding them a little bit, and just exactly what a team like the Kings need.
Well, I don't know what else to say on this show other than it has been a really challenging period of time for Sacramento. And the other aspect that it seems we're getting mixed messages, Rhino, coming out of the Sacramento locker room. There's been a lot of talk about what Zach LaVine made his comment after the game 2 games ago. And then Keon Ellis came out and said, no, Doug Christie before the game yesterday in his meeting with the media said Zach was incorrect. I mean, it's just there's something not right. You know what I mean? Like not everyone's on the same page right now. I think that's very obvious.
Well, I think it's very obvious on the floor as well. Just look at their play, look at the offense. And to a degree, I kind of like what I've seen from Keegan Murray. It seems like he's been more aggressive and he's speaking up a little bit more with his play, Jared.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, that's what he needs to do. He needs to be hungrier. We've talked about it before. I mean, if he's counting on other guys getting him shots, I think he's figured out that's not going to happen very often. And so, he's been a little more aggressive, and he needs to for his own development. I did think that Levine's comment, I really didn't have much of a problem with it for this reason. He said the vibe in the locker. Well, I hope the vibe is bad if you're getting your butt beat.
Yes.
I mean, who wants good vibes in there? The last thing you want is a bunch of happy campers when you're losing. So anyway, that's just I thought maybe just a little bit misconstrued, I guess is what I'd say.
So
I would agree with you.
Is that odd, guys, for Doug to come out and correct that immediately?
I think it is. And I think that Doug is – go ahead, Jerry. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Grant. I mean, it's something you probably don't even need to touch. It's probably if it had been me, I just said, I don't like the vibe in there either after losses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I didn't like the vibe on the bus as a broadcaster when we lost. Did you, Grant? I mean,
no, I did not. No,
there
no,
were some
and
bad vibes in there, man.
unfortunately, for too many of the seasons we worked together, Jerry, that was the only vibe I remember.
There was a whole bunch of bad vibes in there.
0-43, 43 straight games losing on the road. Yeah, that was a full season of bad vibes on the bus.
Well, just being with Dick, period, after wins would be a bad vibe.
Yeah. We were staying in beautiful hotels when we should have been staying at Motel 6s. That was the value of our team, and we should have been taking a yellow school bus around instead of a beautiful chartered bus. That was how the team was playing.
Well, if you'd have come to the King sooner, you'd probably had some of those experiences. By the way,
yes,
we stayed at a few holidays.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, yes. Not to discredit any of the hotel brands that we're talking about, but my first game that I ever did was in Portland, and we stayed at the Red Lion Inn. So yes, I do remember those days. Yes.
Okay.
And to me, it doesn't really matter. I didn't really care.
Hey, one other thing, Grant. So I don't know if you remember, but we stayed at the airport Marriott in LA a lot, and took their shuttle bus.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes, very good. Yes.
So anyway, we got
That's
there.
exactly right. We got there, and what can you say? We got there, and then if we were playing at the LA Sports Arena with the Clippers, you look around and you're like, I'm going to let the fans know what the attendance is in the middle of the game. Hang on. During the timeout, I'm going to count the attendance. Okay. No, really. Yeah. I mean, there were like 2,000 people at the game. It was just the darndest thing you'd ever see in your life.
It was kind of neat. It was neat, though. You could always hear the ball bouncing. You could hear the ball bouncing, and if you wanted to yell something to players calling plays, you could hear them very clearly.
That is very, very true.
So there's
very true.
By the way, Grant, I'm not at all sure that New Orleans is a whole lot better. They can say, they can say what they want about the crowds, but they're not. They're just, there's an awful lot of empty seats. They say 10,000.
No, come on. The only good thing about New Orleans is at halftime they come by and give you a free smoothie. You can check. You pick the flavor you want. So I always look forward to that.
Yeah, they did. Bless their hearts. That made it.
Bless their hearts.
Almost. It made it almost tolerable.
All right. We appreciate everyone joining us here. We try to get you through what's been a very difficult time. We'll see what happens. 10 games left. We'll see if the Kings can reach the 500 mark and see if they can get things going tomorrow against the Portland Trailblazers. Do you have a Kings Court show tomorrow, Ryan?
Kings Court, 2 p.m. I'll be in Stockton tonight. If you're going to be down there, come say hi.
Yeah, that's awesome. Make sure you check out Ryan if you go to the game tonight in Stockton. And then pregame, Jerry, get your rest. We need you tomorrow at halftime, buddy.
I'll bring my A game. And, boy, it is a big game.
Yes.
We say that so often, but the truth is it's a big game.
It is tomorrow. A big game. And, again, Jerry at halftime, and then your phone calls on the post-game show. We appreciate you joining us every week for our roundtable. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Hang in there. We'll see if we can light the beam tomorrow. We'll have it here on If You Don't Like That. So long now. Bye-bye.